When you want to finish your crochet projects faster, and in general crochet faster, there are many things you can do. And now we are looking at 6 tips to make crochet faster. But I want to emphasize that this is if you want to crochet faster. It's perfectly okay to just take your time, enjoy the process, and be under no pressure to do it fast. But the sentence "how to crochet faster" is searched a lot both on YouTube and Google. The first one is kind of obvious. To learn to crochet faster, you need to crochet a lot. So crochet often, different types of projects, different techniques, different hooks, different yarns, so that you learn to know what works best for you. And also at the same time then, all the techniques and stitches, they become more and more automatic the more you crochet. Next, let's look at the different kinds of hooks there are and what might be best for you. I have here the 2 main types of different hooks. This is the so-called inline hook and this is a tapered hook. And because they are different shape, they work slightly differently. This here, you can see that the actual hook bit is in line with the shaft of the hook, while this one sort of protrudes outwards. To simplify, in most cases this type is quicker, because this one requires an extra movement of your hand, just because you have to allow for this here, that the dent is so much deeper, and also the fact that this is much more rounded. But it's not as simple as that, and it's good to have both types. And see from one hand what type you prefer yourself, and also for what type of project you would use each one. Because this one can be sometimes faster, especially if you have somewhere where you have to really stick the hook into small space, like very tight kind of stitches, then the sharp tip can help. But at the same time, the sharp tip easily splits the yarn as well. So that's something to take into consideration. My favorite hooks by far are the Clover Amour ones. I have a few here, I have most of them. I'm linking it in the description. I find that this one is so nice to hold on to that I crochet much faster with this type. Some hooks have a handle like this and then others don't. This here particular one is a very plain one. This is the kind that in Finland is sold in every supermarket, so it's a very cheap one. They are old-fashioned, but I like them and I use them at times. Some hooks have really big handles. Well, this is a big hook as well, but also sort of like rounded like that. And I know that some people like them, so you could try those also. I personally don't like them, but yeah, it's worth trying. From the speed point of view, the surface of this part where you actually are in contact with the yarn is very important. Especially when you're using bamboo, or like this one is birch, or any other wooden ones, make sure that they are smooth. Because some of them stick to the yarn and then that slows you down. Although if you are a beginner, that can actually be a good thing. Aluminum as a material is normally great. It really sort of runs in your stitches. But this is really something then that you need to try different kinds of hooks and see which one works best for you. Then number 3, also the yarn you are using has a big effect on how fast you can crochet. Furry and novelty yarns, of course, are always slower to work with. So if you want to be finished fast, you don't pick those. Without going into the theory of different types of spun yarns, a few points: a very loosely spun yarn slows you easily down because it can so easily split. And of course then you have to undo it, to frog it, and that slows you down. Especially if you are using a sharp inline hook. Cotton and bamboo can also be slower to crochet with than wool because they don't stretch, so it's harder on your hands. These are all different tightly spun yarns, and these are my favorites because then I know that my time is not taken up with fiddling with my yarn. Next, number 4, how you are holding your hook. There are 2 main different ways of holding it. Either holding it like a pen or from above more like a knife. And for both of these, there are many slight variations. I have not noticed that there would be a difference in the speed between these two main ways. What matters is that you are holding the hook in a relaxed but firm grip, so that you are not fiddling with it or needing to move it around to be able to crochet the way you like. A confident grip, but not squeezing it so that your hands hurt. You may also find that at times you want to switch over to the other way of crocheting, even if you normally don't. I would do that at times when I'm crocheting something super chunky. I find that it's easier to hold the hook then like a knife, even though I don't otherwise. Then we are going to look at the different ways you can be holding your hands and your yarn. All different kinds of ways of crocheting normally end up with the same type of stitches. So for that there's no reason to change how you are holding your hook and yarn. And all the different ways can be equally effective when you get used to them. So what I'm looking at now is, are you making some unnecessary movements that slow you down? It doesn't seem a lot like, for instance, if you twist your hook when you are taking your yarn. But when you are doing it millions and millions of times, it will add up to a lot. Plus, of course, the movement needs to be as easy on your hands as possible, so that as time goes by, you don't get into problems because of that. So whichever way you crochet, it's worth checking that your hook always stays in the same position. That when you push it straight through, and it stays in the same position. A great tip is to film your own crocheting. Then you see if you're doing something that isn't necessary. Some of these things that you may notice when you film yourself is that you might be like fiddling with your yarn in some ways, like wrapping it around or needing to help your yarn with one hand, or that it's not automatically tight enough so that it's sort of loose and you need to go for it several times. That sort of things. You shouldn't ever need to touch your working yarn with your other hand. The last thing we're looking at is tension. So what can you do to ensure that you always have an even tension, which results in even stitches, and that you don't do anything unnecessary to achieve that? In watching lots of crochet videos, I have seen both good and bad examples of how people keep an even tension in a good way and in a bad way, or that they don't keep it at all, so that their crochet does not look even. And you can do it well in a whole lot of different ways, so I'm not even trying to show all of them. I first show how I keep my tension. My way of crocheting is that I lift the yarn for the stitch like this here, and the other fingers keep the tension. So I never need to touch anything, it's automatic. I just keep crocheting and it stays even. But there are a whole lot of different ways. So whichever way you crochet, the important thing is that you don't need to loosen or tighten the yarn using either hand, but that it runs naturally and effortlessly to always give you an even tension. And check out also these 10 important crochet tips.